Bryan, let's dive into some of the interesting news that's been popping up lately. And I'm going to take this right backstage because that's one of your specialties. First, I want to talk about what's going on with WWE. And, of course, Vince McMahon was digging into creative pretty heavily. He has apparently taken over since about April. And there were some people that just haven't been happy with what's going on back there. I'm sure there's a few that are. But, Bryan, what is the situation with morale at WWE and all the changes that Vince is making to the show and taking creative back?
Well, I don't think that it's quite as bad as some people are thinking. I mean, he's clearly back. And the big issue actually was, I think it was the night after WrestleMania, where the night after WrestleMania, like everything, I mean, he was there in the building and everything got changed. And people were very, very upset because when he initially left, I mean, morale really shot up. And the reason for that is because everything that had been done was not being done anymore, in the sense that, you know, he would show up every week. He would change everything around on Monday. He would tear up scripts. He would sometimes change things as the show was going on. And it was very frustrating for the wrestlers because, you know, you would do a show Monday, and then they would announce that you were going to have a match the following Monday, and you'd have a week to think about it and do this or that. And then Monday afternoon would come, and all of a sudden you weren't doing the match anymore. And there was a lot of frustration because there was no real week-to-week. You know, certain things would continue on, but in general, like if you weren't Roman Reigns or whoever, you would be scheduled for something that then wouldn't happen. So when he left and Triple H took over, I mean, it was funny because before that, you know, you could watch Raw, and they would announce, you know, 4 things for the following week's Raw. And then the funny thing would be, will even one of them happen?
Right.
And, you know, oftentimes none of them would. Well, once he was gone, you know, they would announce 4 things for the following week, and then the 4 things would happen. And people would be involved in storylines, and people would be advertised for this and that, and they would show up and do what they were scheduled to do. And so, you know, for a lot of different reasons, and obviously another reason that morale was up was because of everything that Vince was accused of, and there were a lot of people that didn't want him there anymore because of that. But morale was you know, night and day once he was gone last summer. So once WrestleMania came and he returned, and then particularly not only returned, but that Monday, it was right back to what it had been. Everything was torn up. Everything was rewritten. You know, people were very upset about that. But aside from that week, you know, the following week, it was kind of back to where it was. And then, you know, the week after that. So he'll be in, I think he's been in only a handful of shows since WrestleMania. But, you know, there have been things that have been scrapped. There have been things that have been changed. But in general, it's still, you know, Triple H largely putting the show together with his crew. And so it's not as bad as it was before. There's, you know, a little bit of frustration here and there based on certain things, but morale is still much better than it was a year ago at this time. So there's always going to be issues, but in general, I mean, people are still a lot happier now than they were before.